right, simple versus compound interest. Now, simple interest is where we figure just on the initial principal with the rate and the time. So it's not accumulated over time, it's calculated once. So the formula for simple interest is interest equals PRT, where P stands for the principal, the amount you start with. Rate is your percentage rate. And of course, we're going to change that to a decimal to play with it. And T is time. And T is always in years. So that is something very, very important to think about. All right. So in number one, we're considering a deposit of $1,000 earning simple interest at 4% a year. So how much interest would be earned in 3 years? Well, principal times the rate, 4%, times the time. So the interest would be $120. So in part two, how do you find the ending balance? Well, if I started with $1,000, and now we're depositing, right? This is money in the bank. This is good interest. So if I earned $120 in interest, my balance is $1,120. Same deposit. Now let's say this is in for 10 years. So principal times rate times time gives me a $400 in interest. So if I then want to find the balance, I would take my initial principal of $1,000, add my $400, and I would have $1,400 in the balance. All right, now compound interest, and for right now we're only going to talk about annually. Compound is where, as time goes by, you accumulate interest, and then your balance builds. So every time they calculate the interest, they're calculated on a bigger balance, so you earn more interest. Whereas simple interest, the interest is calculated once. Compound interest is calculated multiple times. So we generally think for annually that the balance is the principal, 1 plus the rate, raised to the time. And again, time is in years. So when we look at this table, you will see that we're using $1,000, rate of 4%, and then we have the years 1 through 7. So you've got to be very careful of how you put this into your calculator. Notice that you will use inside the parentheses and then raise to the power of 2. So in your calculator, you might have to do 1.04, add that to get 1.04, then raise it to the second power and get an answer, then multiply it by 1,000. So play around, and you should really play with these first two because you know what the answers are. Oh, not those, these two. Because you know what the answers are. That way you know how to use your calculator. A calculator is only good if you know how to use it. So if we fill in this table, I want you to try with hit pause to fill out this table, and notice when this interest over here, we take the answer that we found, their ending balance, minus the beginning principal, and that gives you the amount of interest. So I want you to hit pause and try to finish this table, then come back and check your answers. All right, so check my work, make sure I did this right. And because these are all money, we'll be rounding to the nearest penny. And that's important to notice. Now, you'll also see when we're talking about the interest, this is total interest. Okay, so for this year, this is years 1, 2, and 3 all together. This one is years 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's accumulated interest. It's the total of all years up to that point. And we're going to need that when we answer some questions. So how much interest was earned in the first year? Well, that one's not bad, right? It's right here. So the first year of interest is $40. Just like with simple interest, the first year for simple and compound will always be the same. Now, what about the second year? Okay, so now when you go back to this, you see that the total was $81.60, but we know year 1 was 40. So if $81.60 was the years, this is years 1 and 2, and if I subtract 40, which is year 1, when I subtract those, year 1s cancel out, I'm left with just year 2, and that amount is $41.60. So in year 2, I earned $41.60 in interest. Well, how much more is that than year 1? Well, $41.60 minus 40, I earned $1.60 more. And I earned that money more because when you, let me go back to the table, this here, when after the first year when they put the interest, my balance is now $1,040. So in year 2, when the interest is calculated, it's calculated off of this new balance. So because my balance is higher, I'm going to earn a more percent, right? The higher your balance, the more percent you're going to earn. And that happens year after year after year. Okay, now let's go from the 7th year. Well, you'll see the total for the last year is $315.93. Now this is years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's all of those years. If I subtract the one before that, $265.32, that's years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So when I subtract, years 1 through 6 are gone, and I'm left with just year 7 for a total of $50.61. So you can see, when you compare that to the first year, subtract the $40 of the first year, you're earning $10.61 more than you did in the first year because, again, more interest has accumulated. Your balance is higher. When you have a higher balance, you're going to earn more interest. That makes sense logically, hopefully. Now, simple interest, you earn the same amount of interest every year because it's split up equally over time. We call this linear growth. It's going to be in a straight line, same amount every year. However, compound interest, because it's built off of your balance and your balance is always going up, it's exponential. It's going to be curved. The more you have, the quicker it grows, that so on and so forth. Okay? Now, we're going to use this table to approximate the difference between 10 years and 20 years. So, at 10 years, which is here, simple interest is at about $1,400. Compound, I would say, is closer to $1,500. So in year 10, we would take $1,500 minus $1,400, and the difference is approximately $100 between simple and compound. Now, at 20 years, which is the end, I would say that simple is close to $1,800, while compound is close to $2,200. So if we take $2,200 minus $1,800, we're going to get a difference of approximately $400. So you can see as time goes by, we are definitely earning more interest. And I believe that is the last question. It is.